Be me, 31F, equity and culture lead at a mid-sized SaaS company. Our office is glass, wood, plants, and the kind of calm that costs money every month. We sell operational clarity while we drown in Slack threads and Jira tickets. I have a sociology master's, a thesis on labor power, and a habit of speaking in frameworks. I got hired after our leadership page went viral for being a wall of white men in matching headshots. Someone posted the screenshot with diversity jump scare, and investors started asking questions politely. The CEO panic hired me to prevent cancellations, investor discomfort, and ugly headlines in tech media. My salary is good, plus equity that only exists in decks and founder promises and vague optimism. My job description is verbs like foster belonging, drive equity, audit culture, and create accountability. Translation is I get paid to notice patterns and then convince executives to care before it's expensive. The company is simple once you ignore the posters and the values page and the ping pong table. Engineering is the sun, and everyone else orbits it like smaller, tired planets with worse snacks. Support and admin are mostly women and run on gratitude, coffee, and quiet exhaustion. Sales is loud and fragile because they can't sell what engineering doesn't ship. Engineering floor is hoodies, mechanical keyboards, and conversations that lower when I pass. They call it focus, I call it a boundary, because I have felt that silence before in nicer rooms. My mornings are routine because routine makes power feel deserved. I arrive around mid-morning with a cold brew and oat milk and a podcast about burnout and capitalism. I open Slack and see 1,000 messages because engineers treat Slack like a nervous system. I check my calendar and see alignment blocks stacked like bricks, most of them unnecessary. I post a LinkedIn selfie because visibility is currency in my role, even when it makes me cringe. Caption is always courage, disruption, uncomfortable conversations, and hashtags that signal the correct tribe. Likes arrive fast, and my brain rewards me with a warm certainty that feels like purpose. Then I do my actual job, which is translating messy human reality into language leadership will sign. The CEO gives me one real mission that becomes my obsession. Figure out why junior women devs leave after a year, even when pay looks competitive on paper. He says workload. I say culture because workload is just culture with numbers on it. I read exit interviews and the same shape appears in different words and different fonts. They felt talked over, they felt always on, they felt punished for leaving at 5. They watched men stay late and get praised, then watched praise turn into promotions and refreshes. One exit note says, I never knew if I was behind until I saw the guys still here at night. Another says, I felt like I had to be available even when nobody asked directly. The CEO reads those and says, we should hire tougher people, and I bite my tongue until it hurts. I pull data because leadership believes charts more than people. Top earners are senior engineers, mostly men, with bonuses and ownership rewards and on-call stipends. Junior women cluster in lower bands, slower growth, and lower visibility work like internal tooling and tests. Then I find the real driver, which is not pay, but the worship of availability. Engineers are online late, patching issues, replying fast, and collecting status as thank you. The company never orders it, but it rewards it so hard the order becomes implied. My brain does what it always does when it sees a pattern. I name the structure and then I treat it like a moral problem instead of a management problem. Time becomes a resource, speed becomes a weapon, availability becomes a gate. If you can be endlessly available, you become the standard everyone else gets judged against. Anyone with boundaries looks lazy, even if they are simply human and tired and responsible. I tell myself this is invisible coercion because the pressure is real even without a command. Engineering has a hero, and heroes are dangerous because they turn systems into personalities. He's a senior backend guy, calm eyes, soft voice, same hoodie daily. Incidents happen and he appears in seconds, fixes things, then disappears without drama or praise requests. People say he'll handle it with relief that feels like dependence and entitlement. When he answers on weekends, weekends become fair game for the whole org. When he responds in 5 minutes, 5 minutes becomes the expectation for everyone else. I feel grateful for his competence and resentful of what it does to expectations at the same time. I start collecting language to explain why this bothers me so much. Papers on work devotion, articles on sustainable pace, think pieces on competitive masculinity in offices. Phrases stick like magnets: performative efficiency, invisible coercion, urgency as dominance. I convince myself that fast output can pressure others even without intent or direct aggression. I tell myself I'm not attacking him. I'm protecting everyone from the standard he sets. I also tell myself that if I can change the standard, I can change the company's moral story. I start soft because soft is how you avoid immediate rebellion and still look principled. I create a sustainable pace pledge with a cute turtle icon and warm, safe wording. I say we won't celebrate late nights, we won't reward urgency, we value health over heroics. I add a line about caregivers and whole humans, because whole humans look good in decks. Support applauds, sales looks bored, engineering nods like I handed them a flyer. Next week, an incident hits after hours. The senior guy is in the thread instantly, and the CEO calls him a legend. My turtle becomes decor, and I learn posters don't beat incentives. So I go where incentives live, which is performance evaluation. I pitch a balanced impact framework with 3 pillars: impact, collaboration, and pace. Pace is my lever, framed as safety and equity, not as stop being productive. I sell it with investor words like sustainable scaling, predictable execution, and reduced attrition risk. The CEO agrees because investors scare him more than engineers do. HR agrees because rubrics look like control, and HR likes control with the friendly font. Engineering leadership agrees because they assume it will be applied gently and mostly ignored. The pace pillar starts subtle, using soft words with sharp edges, avoids creating urgency for others, leaves space for teammates, does not dominate workflow. I add a scoring guide because scoring makes soft words feel enforceable. Score 1 is steady, score 3 is pressuring, score 5 is destabilizing to team safety. Reviews begin shifting as soon as people realize my scores affect promotions. Fast men get "consider your pace" notes. Slow women get "strong presence" praise. I tell myself I'm correcting invisible labor bias, but I'm also rewriting the game. Engineers get confused and irritated in a quiet, nerdy way. A manager asks if shipping fast is bad now, and I answer with a paragraph about safety. I use words like coercion and dominance because they sound scientific and stop arguments cold. Then I schedule mandatory workshops in the afternoon because discomfort is growth. A facilitator talks about nervous systems, urgency stories, and how competition can be coded masculinity. Engineers sit in circles looking like they want to crawl through drywall and never come back. The facilitator asks them to name a time urgency harmed them, and they name incidents and sleep loss. She asks them to name a time they created urgency for others and they stare at the carpet. The senior guy attends every workshop and gives me nothing to punish. He participates politely, says urgency is sometimes real, then goes quiet again. His calm feels like resistance because I can't read it. Younger engineers start speaking slower in meetings, adding disclaimers to every sentence. The code doesn't get better. The meetings just get softer and longer and more exhausting. My dashboard improves because people stop being loud and I mistake quiet for safety. But shipping slows in ways that don't show up until later, because delay looks like calm at first. One junior woman messages me privately after a workshop. She says she appreciates the language, but she still feels behind when the senior guy fixes everything first. She says she wants space to learn, but she also wants the system not to crash while she learns. I tell her we are distributing opportunity and building a healthier culture for her. She replies with, okay, and her okay reads like someone saving the chat for later. I don't notice that at the time because I'm busy believing my own narrative. I decide I need enforcement, not vibes, because enforcement changes behavior. I introduce healthy throughput guardrails as an equity initiative against hero culture. Soft cap on repeated high visibility wins, rotation rules for incidents, review if someone outpaces the team. I also add a rule that critical fixes must be offered to the rotation before someone self-assigns. Leadership likes it because it sounds moral and doesn't cost money immediately. Engineering hates it because it makes competence suspicious and makes initiative bureaucratic. The senior guy says nothing, and that silence is the loudest reaction I've ever heard. 2 weeks later, malicious compliance arrives like a clean spreadsheet. Engineers stop doing favors, stop doing extra, and stop saving deadlines quietly. They leave at 5, they follow exact scopes, they route every decision through the chain. They write longer docs because docs count as collaboration and slow output legally. They stop answering DMs after hours, even when the DM is, "Hey, are you awake?" during an incident. Incidents that the senior guy could solve in 5 minutes now wait for the assigned on-call to respond. The senior guy obeys guardrails with perfect precision, and the system immediately feels heavier. At first, I feel validated because they proved they could stop, meaning it was a choice. I tell myself the old culture was voluntary domination, not necessity, and I feel smug about it. Then the ticket backlog climbs like a slow tide, and tides don't care about my beliefs. Support escalations increase, response times stretch, and sales starts sending anxious pings. The CEO asks why velocity is down. Engineering says they are respecting the guardrails. The CEO looks at me like I handed him a live snake, and I keep my face calm anyway. I tell him culture shifts have adjustment periods and that resistance is expected in change management. Support lead corners me near the espresso machine with an exhausted smile. She says customers are waiting longer, and her team is getting screamed at for issues they can't fix. I tell her we are building a healthier system, and she says her team is getting sicker, not healthier. She asks if guardrails apply to outages too, and I say guardrails are especially important during pressure. She nods like she heard me, then walks away like she didn't trust a word of it. Month 5 is when reality stops being polite. A major customer reports intermittent outages at peak hours and the tickets hit like hail. The Slack thread fills with cautious alignment and assigned owners, not quick fixes. The primary on-call is in my workshop because I scheduled it during work hours. The backup on call is out for a kid's birthday, which is exactly the human life I claim to respect. The senior guy is in the thread, but he does not jump in because jumping would violate guardrails. 40 minutes becomes an hour, and the customer email starts sounding like a legal draft. Sales forwards it to the CEO with urgent in the subject, the word I declared harmful. The CEO pings me asking if we can make an exception, and I say exceptions rebuild old power. The CEO calls an emergency call, and his face looks pale in the laptop glow. He asks who can fix it quickly, and the room goes quiet because quick is now suspicious. I say we should follow protocol and avoid slipping back into hero culture. The senior guy says he can fix it, but doing so breaks the policy as written. The CEO says, I don't care, fix it. And the sentence lands like a chair thrown across a room. I open my mouth, then I see support's exhausted faces, and I close it. The senior guy fixes the issue in 20 minutes, and the relief in the room tastes like anger. The customer still demands credits because 20 minutes at hour 3 is not impressive to them. Monday arrives with a hangover and a truth nobody wants to say aloud. The CEO sends a company email praising resilience and thanking the senior guy specifically. I message the CEO privately about hero narratives, and he replies that we cannot afford another weekend. That one sentence tells me my influence is sliding off the table. Engineering quietly returns to faster habits whenever leadership watches, then slows when my rubric watches. Everyone learns to perform compliance, which is what policy creates when it fights incentives. Then the big weekend project appears, the one we planned for months. We're migrating a major customer segment to a new data pipeline with a narrow downtime window. Normally, the senior guy would lead it because he knows the pipeline like a map in his head. Under my system, leading too many high-visibility projects triggers pace penalties and dominance review. Engineering leadership assigns a newer engineer as primary to distribute opportunity. The senior guy is assigned as advisor, which is like assigning a firefighter as a consultant during a fire. Friday night arrives, dashboards glow, and the migration starts calm enough to feel safe. Then lag appears, then errors, then alarms, and Slack fills with polite panic. The primary engineer asks for help, and people respond with questions and alignment steps. The senior guy asks if he should take over, and the primary hesitates because ownership is now moral. Minutes become hours, and the downtime counter becomes a visible enemy. I'm looped in because the CEO wants culture coverage in emergencies, which is a sentence I hate. I say we should stay calm, follow protocol, and avoid slipping into hero patterns. The CEO stares like he might finally raise his voice, then swallows it like always. The senior guy says he can fix it, but doing so breaks the guardrails and will be used against him later. I say policies exist for a reason, and I hear how cold that sounds during a fire. The CEO finally says fix it, and the senior guy takes over with quiet efficiency. He resolves the issue in 20 minutes, and the room exhales like we all survived an accident. Afterward, the mood turns sharp, because relief often becomes anger in professional clothing. Support is furious, sales is terrified, and engineering is tired in a deep way. The CEO cancels my next workshop without asking, and that hurt lands like a demotion already happened. He says we need to pause non-critical initiatives, and my initiatives are suddenly non-critical. My turtle icon in the wiki becomes a fossil in real time. 2 days later, I'm pulled into an operational review with the CEO, the CFO, legal, and a board rep. The CFO is new, enterprise trained, and speaks in numbers like they are oxygen. She shows backlog growth, churn risk, delayed features, and response times drifting upward. She shows a slide titled Operational Fragility, and my stomach turns before she even speaks. Legal says they received two formal complaints alleging discriminatory performance evaluation practices. The word discriminatory turns my stomach to ice because I know how quickly it becomes a headline. The CEO asks me to explain the guardrails and my mouth goes dry. I present my framework with calm voice, safety language, and equity framing. I explain urgency pressure, standards that exclude caregivers, and distributed opportunities for impact. The board rep asks if we have proof that speed itself caused attrition. I cite exit interviews and patterns, and I hear how weak it sounds in a room of metrics. The CFO asks why dominant workflow language appears repeatedly in reviews for high-output men. Legal shows printed excerpts from my own comments, the same phrases like fingerprints. They point out similar language is absent from reviews of comparable women with similar output. I start talking about invisible labor, but the CFO asks a simple question about customers during outages. The silence after that question is the kind that removes power without raising a voice. Legal recommends an internal investigation because investigations are how companies wash their hands clean. The CEO says he wants culture without collapse, and I realize he's picking his religion again. The investigation runs quietly because corporate consequences are allergic to drama. HR interviews engineers, and engineers speak carefully, like they've learned language can be used against them. Support speaks loudly because support has been collecting anger like coins. Sales blames everything on delays because sales only believes in time and money. The senior guy is interviewed last, and that detail alone tells me someone understands strategy. After his interview, he walks out calm, and I feel something in me crack. Legal requests my drafts, my notes, my Slack messages, and my review guidance documents. I comply because compliance is how you pretend you're not afraid. I realize my words are the evidence, and my words are everywhere. The conclusion arrives in a meeting room with careful phrasing and no emotion. They say the rubric was inconsistently applied and created perceived bias risk. They say guardrails introduced operational risk by delaying incident response and discouraging initiative. They say we will retire the policy and revise review language under legal oversight. The CEO offers me a new role, culture programs and communications, which is a demotion into posters. My salary stays, my authority disappears, and I feel hollow walking back to my desk. Engineering doesn't celebrate, they just breathe easier, which somehow feels worse than cheering. The place stabilizes fast once the guardrails vanish, and that hurts in a private way. The senior guy leads a reliability push and response times improve in a month. Engineering ships again, sales relaxes, and support stops living in triage mode. My workshops empty out because people attend culture when work is possible, not when work is bleeding. I write newsletters about empathy and get emoji reactions that feel like pity and distance. The CEO stops inviting me to leadership meetings that involve decisions, and my calendar gets quieter. Then comes the quiet twist, delivered by the CFO in a meeting that sounds harmless. She says every role needs measurable deliverables for investor confidence and operational maturity. She says my communications role now includes incident updates to customers during outages. She says speed and clarity matter, and we will measure response time to incident threads. Fast under pressure becomes my KPI, the exact thing I spent months calling coercive. I laugh softly, realize nobody else is laughing, and accept the on-call rotation anyway. The CFO says it's about accountability, and I realize accountability always points downward. My first comms on call is a Friday night, and my phone becomes a leash I can feel. An incident hits, Slack pings comms needed, and the CFO wants an external update in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, a deadline, a demand for speed, and suddenly it's not violence, it's business. I draft a careful message, but careful takes time, and time is what I don't have. At minute 8, the CFO pings again, and my hands go cold and I send the shorter version. The incident resolves, the CFO praises my responsiveness, and I feel relief that tastes like shame. Weeks pass, and my life becomes the thing I condemned. I answer fast, I stay available, I watch my phone like it's a heartbeat monitor. I stop going to yoga because I'm afraid of missing a ping, which is a fear I used to criticize. I begin to understand that availability isn't a personality flaw, it's sometimes the job. The irony is not funny, it's just heavy, like a backpack you forgot you put on. My LinkedIn posts slow down because it's harder to post about courage when you're just tired. I run into the senior guy in the kitchen one morning while my phone buzzes with another comms request. I ask if he planned the malicious compliance, and he says he just followed the rules exactly. He says when rules punish initiative, people stop initiating, and that's not rebellion, it's math. I ask if he thinks I was wrong, and he pauses, choosing words like someone handling glass. He says my intent wasn't evil, but incentives are stronger than intent, and customers punish delay. He says you can't regulate reality with language, and the sentence lands like a quiet verdict. I want to argue, but I can't, because my job now depends on speed, not speeches. Last scene is small, which is how real irony prefers to arrive. It's Saturday morning and I'm awake because my phone won't let me sleep. A minor incident triggers the customer notification threshold, and I write the update in 3 minutes. I hit send before the CFO can ping, and the relief feels like a confession. I look at my old turtle pledge in the wiki, buried like a fossil, and I finally understand the lesson. Speed was never holy or violent by itself. It was a tool power labels depending on what it needs. I tried to rename the tool to change the world, and the world renamed me instead.